Introducing the all-new Western Enforcer V-Plow. Engineered with all the features, efficiency, and performance of full-size Western V-Plows, built specifically for your half-ton truck. For more information, visit westernplows.com.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. You know there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey with your host, Dave Westcott. The Entrepreneurial Journey is a weekly podcast that streams live every Tuesday at 9:15 a.m. Pacific on Dave's YouTube channel and LinkedIn profile. Now here's Dave with this week's episode. Good morning and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey. I'm your host, Dave Westcott. I've got with me co-host Todd Chapman and special guest Jeremy Ames, co-founder and CEO of Guidant Financial. A little bit about Jeremy. He's the co-founder and CEO of Guidant Financial, a preeminent leader in progressive funding for the small business. Guidant Financial has empowered 30,000 plus individuals to actualize their dreams of business ownership. He's passionate about the small business community and has been an avid supporter and member of the Entrepreneurs organization for more than 19 years. He lives by the philosophy of Possibilism, the idea that we can adapt to overcome our challenges and create the lives we want. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning, Dave. Good morning, Todd.
Good morning. Nice to have you on.
I think I crushed that intro.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you were reading from a teleprompter over there, Dave.
Well, you know, if I did that well, then I want to say it's good. You know, because what happens is you get these words like preeminent. Right?
Oh, yeah. Tough one.
I love it, right? Thanks, Ralph. Way to throw that one in there. Way to make it easy for me. You know,
Possibilism. Yeah.
Possibilism, you know, and so that's why I like to do the read through. But no, it's a lot of fun. And you know, we've had your co-founder on the show, David Nielsen, and I know David from Doxa and from EO. And so we've had a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun there. Getting to know him and hanging out with him. He's a fun guy. And he's also done some some workshop work for us. But interestingly enough, one of the things that I find is so interesting in the entrepreneurial journey is this aspect of partnerships that succeed. And I think it's one of the toughest things in my mind to overcome. And we were actually talking to we were sharing with another podcast this morning, Alex G, we'll call him, and we were sharing about partnerships, and he really liked partnerships, and I shared on that call that, hey, my friend David Nielsen has this business, and he has a co-founder with Guidant Financial, and when they started out, they were both CEOs, like they were co-CEOs or whatever. Is kind of how he shares the story, and so. Regarding that, I think so many entrepreneurs wonder, should I have a partner? Should I not have a partner? What is partnership going to mean? Who gets the most money? Who's the CEO? Who makes the decision? Who puts in the money? Who puts in the hard work? And I think that, you know, we see success on a limited amount of time with partnerships. We see more success when they're apart as individual owners taking responsibility. I just find it so interesting. I would love to hear your perspective on partnerships, how they succeed, co-CEOing. I know I packed like 3 questions in there, but I'd just love to hear your breakdown.
Well, first of all, this is a little bit like bait and switch, Dave, because the first part of this, you're telling me you're basically a 2-syllable guy, and then you just fired 20 questions in rapid succession. But
I had to make up for the teleprompter, okay? Like when you call me out and say I read it off the teleprompter, war's been declared from minute 1.
All right, fair enough.
I'm just teasing. Actually, nowhere war has been declared. I don't want to have a fight with anybody.
Fair enough. Well, David and I have been business partners for more than 20 years. In fact, we've joked for many, many years about a couple things. One, we call each other our heterosexual life partners. And he's still to this day, my wife is not a jealous person at all. But if there's one relationship in my life that she can be jealous about from time to time, it's my relationship with David, because we technically got married before she and I did. meaning we've been in business longer than Jill and I have been married by almost a year. So, the truth is, I would love to tell you this amazing set of criteria, the analysis I did, the behavioral assessments we took before we started partnering together, but none of that actually happened. I mean, we were 25-year-old kids who met each other through some mutual acquaintances, and we just hit it off. And if there's anything that I could point to in terms of what has worked for us over the years, is that we have always been aligned in our values of what we care about, and we have always been aligned in what we want for the future. And so, over the years, lots have changed. Like, David went through a really tough personal circumstance. I went through a really tough personal circumstance. And I've never felt in any of those times like there was a moment where we were keeping score. And I think that why that's important is because I think there's this idea that when you come together as partners, everything's going to be 50-50 all the time. And I think those of you who've been married for a lot of years know that that is never true. It's never 50-50 at any given moment. It's always 60-40 one way, 70-30 the other way. And the question is, do you have someone who gives you the benefit of the doubt? Do you have someone that's willing to struggle through it with you and have those conflicts and be able to talk about the places that you disagree without making it personal? Like, we have another inside joke. This is what happens when you've been working with someone for so long. We call it violent agreement. It doesn't happen very often anymore, but it would be David and I in a room looking like we're arguing for 45 minutes and everyone else like, what is happening? And then all of a sudden we realize we are saying 98% the same thing. We're just coming at it from a little different direction. And once we find that little nuance, it's like, there it is. Let's move forward.
That's awesome, man. That's I love that. I think that that's some good takeaway. And really, values and future. Are your values ever evolving in business, personal? How are you keeping those aligned?
Yeah. Well, with David and I, or you mean just with the business?
Well, I guess with both. I'd be interested to hear both.
I think between David and I, there's just some component of it that's always been aligned. And I think over the years, we've had many variations of our values as a company. I think what happens with values is that they're almost like a marble sculpture that over time you just keep chipping away at, and it gets clearer and clearer and clearer as you understand more about the business and you have more self-awareness of what matters and what makes the difference between the people you just really love working with and that you feel like the relationship becomes exponential in terms of the amount of things you can do together versus the ones that just feel like work. They feel like friction to have to work through. So even at the beginning of this year with Guidant, we went through another variation of our values because we've been trying to do a better job living one of our principles, which is catch people doing things right. And so I started writing this weekly email for the team. And in this weekly email, I capture 3 value stories, which are trying to highlight how people within the company have lived our values, either in how we work together or how we show up for our customers. And in doing that for a year, I just noticed some holes that I had never noticed before in how we were defining our values. And so it caused me to take one of our values and actually turn it into a set of values and principles for how we want to show up for our customers. That used to all be compacted into one value that we call passion. And now it's a set of things where basically our value of passion had a love child with our competitive differentiator, and they became our customer values. And so now that's giving us something to have that dialogue with our team about and catch them doing these things right in real life, where it's like, hey, the way you help that customer is living our value of reducing client effort in the way that it's helping that person see around corners. Like, you know something that they don't know because they haven't been there yet, and you're helping them see that so you can save them that pain. Awesome.
I love that. Oh, go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, no, I mean, I obviously in preparation for our call, I understand and connected obviously with some of your team members from seeing you and connect on recent conferences. And you guys have a pretty strong culture from what I can tell, and even were voted, I think, the best place to work in Idaho as one of the top companies recently. And in terms of value, I mean, where have you seen that shift of culture, over time? Because you've been in business obviously for 2 decades plus. And how do you communicate that and shift with the team, whether that's generationally or going to remote work, which I believe you guys are fully remote, from my understanding. How do you work with that and work with your team to make sure you keep a strong culture and those values?
Well, man, Todd, that has evolved so much over the years because as the team continues to scale, the strategies that we've used in the past just no longer work. Like when we first started the company and we had 20 people, having a great culture was easy. It's just you're there in the office, you're having fun times, everybody goes out and grabs happy hour after on a Friday. It's like, it's not hard. It doesn't take a lot of work. As you get to 50 team members, 100 team members, 200 team members, now it's really, really hard. Now you have people coming into the company at times where you see their names and you're like, wait a second, have I met that person? Have I not met that person? I don't remember. And I've had to evolve to think about different ways to reinforce values. I used to rely on that being one-on-one. Like I said, about a year and a half ago, I started writing this weekly email, and it was really primarily focused around that. It was recognizing that we had so many layers in the company now of different leaders and then things that we're channeling through, that we were getting a little bit of loss of translation that would happen with values. Just like you play the telephone game. If you pass that message through 3 or 4 people, suddenly it sounds a little bit different than the way it started. And so that became a tool that my business coach recommended to me. I started implementing it, and actually it's been really cool the way that it's given me a connection to some of our team members, because often people will respond to those emails and share something personal with me directly. And it's like, wow, I can actually have a relationship with people without creating this environment where I have to do these skip level meetings, these awkward things where you meet with someone 2 layers down and then you uncover a problem and you trickle it back to this other leader, and that leader gets insecure. And then I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with any of that, but
all that, like,
all that.
it's, like this we might not get off this
talking
call
your
today.
language.
But yeah, we've had a lot of evolution even in the last 5 years. We never intended to go fully remote. What we intended to do as we were expanding into more offices, because at one point we had 2 offices in the States, we had a couple offices internationally, and our intention was to have a hybrid work environment. And that was really driven by, we're a services-based company. And where we grew up in the Seattle area, we were competing primarily against technology companies. And it's really hard to compete for talent against technology companies because their profit and loss statements are driven very differently than ours. Every time we add a new customer, we've got to add people to serve that customer. It's not this sort of exponential. And so we had to think of how we were going to differentiate as an employer. And hybrid was an area that we thought, we think people are going to want some flexibility. This is a place that we can really shine. And so even before COVID, we had started to invest in some technology and other things to support that. And then COVID hit and we had to go fully remote. And we realized pretty quickly that in a hybrid environment, we were working on solving 25 problems. And suddenly those 25 problems became 3. And those 3 problems are really hard. Like the one that we still continue to chip away at is, how do you build lasting, meaningful connections among coworkers when you're working remotely? And that is something that we work a lot on. We have a Monday all hands stand up for 15 to 20 minutes. And we alternate different leaders in the company that come present that. And it's a chance to get together, get everybody up to speed on what's happening in the company, celebrate a few things. We do once a year, we do a full day where we take everyone offline for the day and we treat it like an annual convention. We just do it all online. And we bring in speakers and we do workshops and we have fun events that we run together, and we try and find ways to pull our team into our purpose and what we're trying to do. So we continue to experiment with a lot of things. So I guess that's what I would say is, like, if you want to succeed in business, every time you grow, you're at a level you've never been at before. And that's going to force, at least it's forced me to have to learn a new set of skills and approaches. And the way that I have always done that is just try some stuff, see what works, and get rid of the stuff that doesn't, and double down on the stuff that does.
That's great.
Well, that's awesome. So this concept of 100% remote work, I knew that you guys did this. I'm aware of that. And then when you said it, or maybe Todd said it, I'm not sure. It still shocked me. I still was sitting here and I was like, crap, 100%. Oh, remote. Oh no, and I think that one, like, it's an idea that's like, man, that's amazing. I wish I could accomplish that. I could reduce rent. I could, I wouldn't have electricity bills, garbage bills, all of these different things that might save the company money. But for most entrepreneurs out there, they don't want to relinquish the control. Now, I think we have about 40-ish Doxa team members, give and take. I could be off plus or minus 10%, but whatever. So everybody in Doxa is a remote member of our team, right? Doxa is an offshore company in the Philippines that provides virtual assistant labor for pretty much any position that you can imagine. They can source it, they can find it. Just a background for the audience. Those 40 positions, I was going through the 9-block talent assessment that our team fills out. And as I was going through that, some of the best leaders in our company are actually working at Doxa. Okay. That's incredible to see. And then there's these occasions where it says, okay, you can let somebody go because we need to shrink up this department, but you can't touch the Doxa team on this. And then we have this feeling that internally it's like, okay, our internal US-based team, they can't go remote. But yet we'll trust a whole group of foreigners who work in the Philippines, who we don't know where they're working, offshore, to do all this work, and then they're top performers. And so I guess my question is just the apprehension, the fear of letting go of control, the fear that they're not working, the fear that they're playing golf when they should be selling jobs. Gosh, man, I think so many, and I hear it all the time in my own, EO forum, in different, mastermind programs. It's always the biggest struggle of, I can't let go. I can't let go of my office. I just wonder, can you do it in any business? And I guess you can, but what does success look like?
Yeah.
In that, how do you manage that?
Well, first of all, I just want to point out this weird irony that exists. Most of us become business owners because we just desire autonomy more than anything else, right? We want our freedom. We want to not be beholden to someone standing over our shoulder, checking everything that we're doing. And then what we do is we go around and create these businesses, and we get so concerned about what we're delivering for the customers that if anything goes wrong, we start then over controlling it. And I would just say the same need that you and I have for autonomy, our team members have. And the thing that remote forces you to do is that you can't manage by standing over someone's shoulder. And so you have to get clear on what outcomes you want and what boundaries you need people to operate within, because that's what you have to manage them to. And it doesn't mean that weird things can't happen from time to time, but I'm just a believer and have seen over and over again, when you give people trust, when you give them purpose, that's when they do their most amazing things. And, I am the worst in an environment where I feel like someone is telling me what to do. Just ask my wife. It is like nails on a chalkboard to me, if I even sense that might be happening. So, in a way, what happened with COVID was a blessing for us, because I don't think we ever would have tried it, Dave. I don't think we ever would have even given it a shot if we hadn't been forced to do it, at which point it was like, oh, we can do this. It's not that it's like anything. You're not going into a world that has no problems. You're trading one set of problems for a different set of problems. But I would tell you with remote, like I talked about with the hybrid, it took 25 problems and it made it 3. And as we lived over in it for a while, I think the thing we realized again, when we went back to our employer differentiator, we looked at what was happening in the world and said, this wave of remote is not going away. Like, people have had a taste of this, and that autonomy, that freedom, that flexibility, people really like it. Our team members didn't want to come back to an office. So we said, why don't we just embrace it? Why not, instead of worrying about all the reasons we're going to have challenges with it, we don't just say, if this is where the wave is going for some percentage of the employment world, let's just figure out how we can be the best at delivering it, the best at delivering an employee experience. And we acknowledged when we made that decision that there were going to be team members that we loved, that we adored, and that had been with us for many, many years that were probably going to leave. And that's exactly what happened. We had team members that needed that in person at least some number of days to function. But like, when we looked at long term where we wanted to go as a company, we said, this is a place that's going to help us get really clear on who we can create a great employee experience for. So let's lean into it.
Man, there's so much to unpack.
That's a lot to
there.
unpack.
I mean,
I know.
I think so. I'll share a story with you, and this is a personal story, but I'll share a story that I had with you that really made me take a step back on the whole remote thing, right? Because I'm a believer. Like, if I could run a business that was all remote, like, I think I would be all in on that. But maybe I just haven't decided to go all in on it. I'm lying to myself. I don't know what the truth is. But I'm sitting down and I'm having lunch with the VP of a bank. Okay. And this VP of this bank has been there for over 20 years. And they have a massive portfolio of people. And so we've known each other for a long time. And I said, hey, how is the remote work going? And he's like, oh man, I love it, blah, 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 blah. It's just so good. And I was like, well, what about productivity? Do you find productivity challenges with your team? And his response to me was earth-shattering. I'll never forget it, because it really just marked a moment in my life. And he said, I don't really care about what happens at the business. I don't be careful how I phrase, because I don't want to call anybody out, but I don't really care necessarily what happens to the business anymore. Like, for me, going and picking up the kids at karate at 3:00 is cool. I can check my email on the way. I can take calls. I will never go back to working in the office. And I probably work 30% less than I did before. My quality of life is better. I am happier. And I do less work for the company. And I would imagine that my team does less work for the company. We're less productive. But we're in Seattle, and out of the 1,000 employees that we have, if they push back on this, they'll lose the staff. They'll go across the street. So the company's held hostage, and there's not much they can do. But I definitely don't work as much as I used to. And coming from a senior VP, somebody with clout, somebody that I had a lot of respect for in the industry, I was taken back by that comment. And because I was like this proponent of, like, let's build from home and let's do that. And I think that sentiment right there, that fear, and maybe coupled with like Amazon saying, man, we're going to come back today 3 days. If you don't do this, this is the fine, this is the penalty, this is the termination, whatever they did. I don't know exactly. But they kind of said, hey, we're pulling back. How do you look at something like that experience that I shared, or how would you manage that for those in the audience that say, hey, I want to be all remote? Because I would love to be all remote, but I'll be honest with you, that scared me to death.
Yeah, I get it. I think if the expectation is that you can take the exact same way you work and operate and then suddenly go 100% remote and it's going to get you equally good outcomes, I think you're going to be disappointed, because it is a different way to work, and it requires a different way to manage the business. Like, you have to be way more deliberate and clear about outcomes, because I would say, who cares if the guy's working 30% less? The question is, what is he delivering? How are you defining work? Are you defining it on some set output, or are you defining it on how many hours his butt sits in a seat? The win-win is, if I can get what we need from a business, from the employee standpoint, then I want my employees to win. I would like them to be able to pick up their kids and still be able to accomplish what we need them to do in the role. So the question becomes, how do you make that happen? Where can you afford to be flexible? And those are things that, like, there wasn't some magic answer that happened overnight, and I'd be lying if I told you that we've got it all figured out. But what we do have is we have clarity on where we're trying to be the best. And so we just keep iterating at it all the time. We survey our team every quarter. We're constantly trying to evolve how we think about the metrics that matter and how we measure success. I will tell you, in certain parts of the business right now, a big struggle that we're having is we're really good at measuring the quantity components, but not as great at measuring the quality. And we've got some work to do, especially with some of our frontline producers on that side. But that's the thing. I think the challenge that happens with most companies in general is that if you lack clarity on a direction, you can't optimize for that direction. So my encouragement to people would be, don't half-ass remote. Like, if you're going to do it, be all in, make a commitment, because it requires a commitment. And if you're not going to be all in, then don't be all in. Like, I mean, every business model is different. And frankly, I don't want everyone to go to remote, because our whole premise here is that we want to be really great at being remote. For the people who want to be remote, we want them to come work for us.
Right. I love that.
Yeah, keeping that competitive advantage. I know, obviously, just a history in small business and franchising, have directly had personal experiences with Guidant, with different franchisees and small business owners I've worked with, and obviously believer in what you guys are doing over there. What right now, I mean, obviously a lot of our audience are small business owners, mainly in the service-based industry. What trends are you seeing with funding right now that you could share with the audience? If they're thinking about, hey, I need to scale up right now, but I'm lacking some funds, right? We know that's always a struggle with businesses, especially those are in small, let's say a few $100,000 in revenue and looking to scale that $1 million plus or beyond. But right now, I mean, what trends are you seeing, for small business funding? And I know you guys have a lot of different products that you can provide, but for that small business owner is like, hey man, I need something to get me to that next level. I mean, what would you say, and what are you seeing out there right now for funding?
Yeah. Well, first I'll just caveat that our real specialty is helping people at the point of buying or starting the company. We obviously have, 8,000 plus existing customers we serve, so we have a little bit of context on that, but I'm primarily going to be speaking from the sort of early stages. And what we're seeing, I mean, we've been at this for 20 plus years. So we see the trends as they sort of move. And right now we're in a higher interest rate environment world. And that means the cost of money is more. And that creates some friction for business models and or the ability to expand. And, the big issue that comes up, especially for startup businesses, is that when you start factoring in an 8%, a 9% interest rate, and you look at what that does to your cash flow, it really creates a lot of either friction on the business model or the need to have other collateral or other sources of income to start. So, my encouragement to anyone who wants to become a small business owner at some point is always start early. Like, I have a personal philosophy, like, get a HELOC when you don't need one. Yeah. Because when you need it, they're not going to give it to you. Like, the time to get leverage is when you are in a good financial spot. There are ways that you can sock away money in your retirement account that you can use later on if you decide you want to use that to invest in a business. So anything you can do to give yourself optionality. Even I have funded a whole life policy to a certain cash amount as part of my strategy, so that I don't need to leave as much cash in my ongoing operating account to say, hey, I've got a year's worth of expenses sitting here, doing nothing and having opportunity costs associated with it. Instead, I've got a cash value of something that if I need to manage cash flow over a short period of time, I can borrow from that and make that happen, but I've still got money working in other ways. So my big encouragement is give yourself optionality out there. And at the end of the day, it's a business. So the good part about a business is it's just math. Like, if you can go to a bank and you can show them the math that you're going to borrow X and you're going to be able to generate Y, then you're going to be able to get money. The problem is that when most people sit down with a bank and present that, They're going to get why is some wild ass guess that they hope is going to work. And they've done no work to show how the assumptions that underlie that are true. And so that would be my encouragement. If you need to scale your business, if you want, like, what's the cheapest, fastest path to prove your hypothesis of what's going to make your business grow? And then take that to the bank.
That's
I
awesome.
love that.
Or to an investor or whatever.
What is it that sets Guidant Financial apart in the market?
Well, for one, we do something that's pretty unique. I mean, one of the big cores of what we do is we help people use retirement funds to buy and start small companies. So a lot of our clients that come to us have been managers in a Fortune 5,000 company for years, and they've saved up $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000 in retirement funds. And for whatever reason, they're getting to a point in their life where they're saying, oh, I'm done with this person standing over my shoulder telling me I got to come into the office 4 days a week. Maybe I'm ready to finally make that leap and do my own thing. I've been telling myself for years that I know better than my boss what we should be doing. That's the big thing that we help people do. And then over the last few years, we've been expanding on our vision of increasing the number of people that succeed in small business by adding some of these supporting services. Because I have still never met someone who said, hey, I'm getting into small business because I love paperwork and gosh darn it, I'm good at it. Right. No small business owner has ever said that. It's a pain. We all hate it. We procrastinate. We push it to the last minute. And so what we've been starting to do is integrate some of those services to just say, hey, one of the ways we can help businesses succeed is just make the paperwork part less painful so they can focus on the things that are actually going to help their business move forward. Because it's not going to be their bookkeeping. And it's not going to be their taxes. It's going to be the next great employee they hire. It's going to be the product they launch. It's going to be that new program they figured out for how to get new customers in the door.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
I love
great.
it. You talk about the philosophy of possibilism.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Well, I believe that humans are entrepreneurs at heart.
Okay.
If you think about it, there are 8 billion plus of us on the planet now. We have infested this planet everywhere. And the reason we are the dominant species on this planet is because we have been able to adapt our environments. We have been able to create and overcome obstacles in a way that no other species has. That's our superpower. All of us have that within us, this ability to decide on a vision of something that can be different in the future and go out and create that and make that happen. The only difference is that some of us take the leap to actually try to get paid for it ourselves rather than relying on someone else to pay us for it.
I love that.
But when it comes to your own journey, I mean, one of the things we love here on Entrepreneurial Journey is just that vulnerability, authenticity. Yeah. And speaking of you, I mean, with Possibilism and adapting and overcoming, what would you say is the greatest challenge that you've been on in this 20-year plus entrepreneurial journey of your own, and that you overcome to reach maybe those possibilities that were beyond even yourself, you know, or if you have, you know, time for just a couple, maybe I'm sure you have many, but
I'll try and make this short, but my team will tell you I can be very long-winded with my answers, Todd. Have you guys ever watched the new Spider-Man comic ones? My kids love it, the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Where it's like 1,000 versions of the universe that could happen. I think in 1,000 versions of the universe that can happen, I end up where I'm at in 2 of those. So I grew up pretty poor. I went to 4 different junior highs in 3 years because my parents never owned a home. We moved every single year. And so I was always the new kid. I was the chubby kid in middle school who didn't have any friends and didn't talk to anybody. And I had no idea what world of possibilities were out there. I went to college originally. I didn't even apply I applied to one college. I applied at the last minute, and I applied because a couple of my good friends were going there. I decided I was going to be a teacher, probably because it's the only job I had seen consistently for the 12 years prior, and thought, well, I guess I could do that. And then I got into my student teaching 2.5 years in, and I was like, wait, I don't want to do this. And so I dropped out of college and I got a job working in restaurants, and I told myself, I'm going to go back to school at some point and I'll, do something else. I never did. And in fact, I shared a LinkedIn post today a little bit about my story. And I was managing a restaurant I just moved back to Washington State to manage this brewery and restaurant, be one of the managers at this brewery and restaurant. And I was fired up starting this job. I was bringing all my creative juices to it. My big claim to fame in the 4 months I was there was that I figured out that the brewery, our cost on our beer was like 10 cents. And so what I did was I created this dollar beer night on Sunday nights, because I was like, we can still make money here and sell it. And the place was packed. It went from our least busy night to a night where like we had to shut it down for a couple of weeks while we reconfigured the infrastructure of how we were going to manage it, with like a bouncer up front, and how we were going to do food and what limited menu we might provide. And about 4 months in, the assistant general manager pulls me aside and she says, Jeremy, you need to stop trying so hard. It feels like you're just trying to make me and the other managers look bad. And I was 24, Todd and Dave.
Wow.
I cried in the middle of a restaurant. I'm a grown-ass man crying in a restaurant because I feel so crestfallen by this whole thing. And I have no idea to this day. I have no recollection of anything that I said to her. But I do know I gave my notice like 2 weeks later. And from that, I ended up getting my real estate license. And after getting my real estate license, I saw an opportunity to create a business. And I talked my ex-girlfriend into moving out to Washington to help me found this company. I've now been married to her for almost 20 years. Because of that business, I got introduced to David, who became my co-founder in like 5 different companies that we started over the last 20 plus years. Like for me, I'd love to say there was all this intention that was involved. It wasn't. I got lucky at the right moments of the right sort of pain and opportunity, where I got to see what happened when I let the entrepreneur inside me go to work. When I took an idea I had and I actually took a step forward to try something, and that just became almost an addiction to see what could happen. At this point, I am pretty sure I'm unemployable. I don't know who would hire me. They certainly would make me come into the office 5 days a week so they could watch what I'm doing.
That's great. As most entrepreneurs are, in my experience. You don't need an assessment to tell you that. That's great. What a cool journey.
That is an awesome story. You know what? I love that, man. I love the story from start to finish. And I think so many entrepreneurs can resonate with that. I mean, I really do. That's awesome. I'm going to look for that LinkedIn post. I made a little note. I'm going to check it out. We're bringing this thing in for a landing. It's been a fabulous show. Todd, we'll just start with you. Todd, any final thoughts? And then we'll leave it. Jeremy, close us out with any final thoughts you have for the audience.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, amazing thoughts. I mean, the values, I love the values alignment, and future focus. I think for those who, whether they're in partnership or solo entrepreneurs, I love that comment you made about keeping values. I guess the last question I'd have for you, Jeremy, is what's one tip you would share with someone who's either considering going into business for themselves or that entrepreneur and along your journey? Obviously, you've had an amazing story, but what's one tip that you would leave our audience with that would encourage them or help them grow as a business leader?
I think those are 2 different questions. So which one would you prefer me to answer? What would I say to an aspiring business owner, or what would I encourage someone who already is a business owner?
If you can tackle both quickly, then do
okay.
both.
So my feedback for aspiring business owners, if that's what your dream is, commit. Because if you don't commit, nothing's going to happen. What I see are people that perpetually have dreams that are 3 to 5 years in the future. I want to be a business owner someday. I'll get to that at some point. The only way you start to move forward is you commit. That doesn't mean you have to quit your full-time job. It just means you have to start taking action today to support that. And reading a book is a small action, but I mean like real actions where you're actually doing something. Go talk to an entrepreneur. Go, spend 2 hours to explore an industry, something that starts to get your juices flowing and build your confidence of like, hey, I can do something here. And then for existing business owners, I wish the thing someone would have told me when I was in my early 20s is that the biggest limitation for your business will be your own limitation of personal growth. In the early stages of the business, I thought I had to dump 60 to 80 hours a week into the company to make it grow. And the reality is, if I could go back, I would have carved out 15 to 20 of those hours and just invested in becoming a better leader, a better communicator, building my own self-awareness of my strengths and weaknesses, because every pain I've run into in the business and every thing that I've overcome has really come from that exploration. And I wish I had invested more sooner, but I just didn't know. And there was no one that helped me see that.
That's great.
That is great. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. I think I'll just share here. I love what you said. If we're clear on outcomes and we're clear on boundaries, I think that's huge. That's my big takeaway for the show. Jeremy, any final thoughts for our audience today?
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me. I always love
welcome.
talking about this kind of stuff. And second of all, I just encourage anybody. I am such a passionate believer in what people are capable of. And I really do believe that all of us have an entrepreneur inside of us. Like, let her rip. Stop holding back your dreams. Stop limiting yourself. Even if you take baby steps, like that's how you build confidence. You don't have to do everything all at once overnight. You don't have to become Elon Musk on day 2. Like, just take a small step in that direction, because that's how you build the skill and build the confidence. And I am a believer that entrepreneurs move the world forward, because nothing gets better until we start doing things differently. And that's really all entrepreneurs are. It's somebody who's coming in and saying, I'm going to do something a little bit differently because I believe in this thing, or I believe in a way that we can operate in a better environment. So I would just encourage all of you out there, if you got a dream, get after it and share it with other people. We're in such a unique environment right now where we can learn from each other, not just from books of what people are distilling down of what they think they know, but actually experiences of what people have lived through that allow you to pull out the component pieces that really speak and resonate to you, because we're not all the same. And there's no silver bullet book that's going to have the perfect answer for Dave and the perfect answer for Jeremy, because they're different. We have different strengths. We have different weaknesses. We have different passions. So you can't outsource that. You got to go find it yourself.
Man, you brought it today. That's awesome. This has been an amazing show. Clear on your boundaries, clear on your outcomes, let it rip, just get her done, right? And entrepreneurs move the world forward. All 3 of those I'm stealing. All 3 of those will be heard again. Thank you so much. And listen, if you're a small business out there, if you're starting up, if you're early stages, check out Guidant Financial, an amazing resource, an amazing business to help get you moving in the right direction financially. Guidant Financial, check it out. Check out Doxa as well. Doxa with offshoring has been awesome for us and an awesome business. I'm Dave Westcott, your host. Thank you so much. Follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, anywhere we're at social. If you like this, give us a like, give us a share. We're back every Tuesday, 9:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please drop your comments and any thoughts that you have into the comment box, and we'll get back with you. Thank you so much for joining our show today.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations, so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. You know there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.
Introducing the all-new Western Enforcer V-Plow. Engineered with all the features, efficiency, and performance of full-size Western V-Plows, built specifically for your half-ton truck. For more information, visit westernplows.com.